Hey everybody, welcome to SeniorGolfSource.com. I'm going to share with you some really good fundamental tips when improving your balance. So for those of you golfers that maybe struggle with posture from the beginning, throughout the swing, and most importantly to the end of the swing, we're going to cover setup, motion back, and follow through tips to help you become a better balanced golfer. One of the big keys to a good golf swing is to have good rhythm. And balance and rhythm and consistency all work hand in hand. You're going to have a difficult time if you have this really fast tempo that has erratic speeds that are just not going to get the job done out there. You might run through a couple of rounds where this hard, aggressive move is going to work for you, but unless your last name is DeChambeau, those aggressive swings are not going to be the average golfer's approach to being consistent. So let's start with posture right from the get-go. I'm going to go ahead and jump up here and get myself into position with one of the irons. And here I have my 8-iron. So what I'm going to do first is we'll talk about positioning from the ground up. If we look at the body, in a normal, good posture golf swing, there should be a good stable base. Now I've seen, as an instructor, I've seen people that have really wide bases, I've seen people that have really narrow bases. For the most part, we should be about hip width apart. So if you take your setup and you notice that maybe your stance is really narrow, well, there's going to be a good reason why you struggle with balance. Put this thought in our mind. If we're swinging with a very narrow stance, now this is kind of overkill, I know, but a very narrow stance, think about a tree, a small tree in the wind. If the wind is gusting, that small tree is just moving everywhere. We're just not going to have that stable base that's going to help ground us to allow us to make the proper movement. Now, if we go on the opposite side of things, where we go really wide, you know, one good thing, it's good and stable, but if we get outside of the range and we kind of cut out our hip flexors from moving in the swing, we're going to struggle with rotation issues. You might have okay balance, but you're really going to struggle with getting the distance and finishing a swing. There's a lot of times you might even fall back in your swing with that big wide stance. So what we're going to do is I want you to take your hands, place them to the sides of your hips, and what I want you to do is just extend your arms straight out in front of you, and let's look at that distance. Now if I look at it and I take my stance, I should be at least that wide. Okay, so do it one more time. Stand just directly upward, put your hands directly on your hips and extend them directly out in front of you, and let's look at that distance that we have. I want to be right around that distance with my irons because that's what's going to allow me proper balance, good stability, and it's going to help petition a good rhythm in my swing. So now that we've talked about the width of the stance, let's kind of look at the rest of the posture. A big key is we want to have some flexion in our knees. Now, how much? All right, well, let's use another sport here. Let's use basketball. Let's use a sport that we're ready to pivot. Tennis would be a good sport as well. Pickleball would be a good sport. If we need to make this athletic move, the last thing I want to do is have my weight grounded into my heels. So that's a big no-no. We don't want to set up and drive the weight into the heels of our feet because it's really going to disable us from making a good athletic posture. Therefore, you're going to struggle with balance. So if I do it properly, it's kind of like the position I would be ready to move right or left. I really feel like the weight's more on the balls of my feet here. I'm not telling you to put all the weight towards the toes, but a nice, active, ready position. If I told you to go, you could start moving forward. Okay, now that we've got that positioning down in the feet, we've got flexion in our knees, and one of the big ticket items here is our spine angle. Now I know maybe for those of you golfers that might have a couple more years than others, your spine might start to round out, it might start to curve. So I understand you may not be able to achieve this desired spine angle, but we want to try to get as close to it as we can. When I set up my arms, I should have this natural position where it's just a natural hang. It's not this extended reach, and it's not hugged to my body. The arms are just kind of hanging down. Should be a loose feel. So now that I'm there, we've hit our position with posture at the start. Let's talk about posture in the backswing and how it's going to contribute to our backswing. So that last point that I covered, our spine angle, whenever that changes, if we start in good position and then we get to the backswing and we've stood tall, I'm going to have to manipulate a lot of my body parts to get back into a successful position. And if you add more moving parts, we're talking trouble. So one of the key factors in good balance is maintaining posture. So if I go to the top of my backswing, notice that my spine angle did not change. As I go back, I want to try my best to keep that spine angle, that slight tilt forward over the ball. I want to feel like it stays the same. So a nice drill inside the house that you can use, place a cap on, get yourself up against a wall, and I want the brim of your cap to touch that wall. Now without a golf club in your hands, stable your position with your body, and I want you to take that backswing, and what I want you to feel is that that cap might slide a little bit on the wall, just ever so slightly, but we want to remain connected. And if we do that, we're going to maintain that spine position. So if you're looking not only to have a more balanced swing, it's certainly going to help with your ball striking. Okay? Now let's talk about finish, because it's something that I see violated way too often, and this is one of the reasons why people do struggle with consistency on the course, is they might do the two first things properly. They might have good posture at address, they might maintain their spine angle, but as they come down, you could either fall back, you could go forward and lose your balance. I would much rather see the second of the two that I just mentioned, because that is initiating the weight transfer. Now, I'm not telling that's a type of swing that I want you to take out on the course, because we would love to just take our setup, backswing, follow through, and be able to hold it. So what we're going to do, if you struggle with the end of your swing, let's just look at a couple key points that will help you with transferring your weight, with making that full balanced finish. So if we look at it, let's pay attention to my trail foot. So looking at it from down the line, if I take my backswing, that trail foot's grounded, and as I come through, the trail foot turns so the sole is in the air, and we're going to see that I'm on the tip of my toe. So looking at it from face on, I go to the top, come through, make that nice pivot, and my weight is definitely on my left side on finish. You can see that my right leg is on a slight angle and my left leg is straight forward. So a really good drill for that. You can take a high lofted wedge. So I've got my sand wedge here. I'll take a high lofted wedge. I'm going to place it underneath of my right foot. So I'm talking to you right-handed golfers here. Lefties, just do the opposite. I'm going to place it so I'm stepping my heel on the grooves of the club face, so the club is sticking up in the air. Now if I go to the top of my backswing properly and I come down, the idea is I want to feel as though I'm making that downswing transition, I'm making that club drop. And that will help you with the sequence of your downswing. A lot of people will simply just not move off that back foot. And you've got to think about it. If that foot's not moving, how are you effectively transferring your weight? You're not. There's going to be some weight transfer, but nowhere near the amount that you need for a consistency through 18 holes of golf. We need to make that transition through. And one last tip for those of you that might make that move but tend to move around after you're finished. You know, you've done the successful thing, but you really struggle, maybe particularly with the driver. Swing with weighted clubs. Swing with a weighted club and practice that full finish and hold that full finish. So if you don't have a weighted club, grab 2 irons. I'm going to set up, now it's heavy, right? I'm going to take my backswing, I'll go back, I'll follow through, and just simply swinging with a weighted club is going to help strengthen those muscles. It's going to help you understand, okay, well, here's the part of my swing that needs some focus. And a little bit of weight training is not a bad thing for a golfer. So I hope you found this very helpful, and please comment, like, and subscribe for more.